Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. Here, this is the spot where the conversation is pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Welcome home, Brains. There's only one requirement to hang out on the edge, is that you open your big brain and close your small mind. Did you bring your thinking caps? It's time to put them on, because the conversation starts now.
You can call me Deb. I mean, that's not a problem. But like my website name is debbiepearson.com and all the stuff is Debbie Pearson. So, but my friends call me Deb. Deb and Debbie. No big
Okay,
deal.
so what can me and the brains call you? We're gonna call you Debbie Pearson.
Well, I guess if you're kind of introducing me, you'll say Debbie Pearson. But a lot of times people go, Deb, let me ask you a question. Blah, 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 blah. You know, that kind of thing. They just shorten it. But I answer to Deb and Debbie. I prefer not Deborah. So however it comes
Like
out.
Deborah? You haven't grown into Deborah?
Well, you know, it's an interesting thing. I had an opposite. I had a grandmother who decided that whatever your name was on the birth certificate, you had to be called that, no matter what you wanted. And when somebody finally, I was junior high and said, what's your name? And I went, it's Debbie. Well, all of a sudden I had power. So to me,
Okay.
it's like Debbie. And it's like, and by God, we're going to use Debbie. And if I want to think I'm not a grown adult ass woman, I don't care, right? So
She's a grown-ass woman, brains, here on the edge, and she is working with other grown-ass women over 40.
absolutely.
She is helping them release their stress, their anxiety, and being overwhelmed. And that's where we all are right now. And I want to ask her a question. Why is it always women that are stuck in stupid? I don't get it. I just don't understand. You know, men have these midlife crises. They go buy a sports car or get them a little young 20-year-old. But it seems like women just carry this on from adolescence to senior citizen. Why can't we let go, Debbie?
Well, like actually, it's because of our brain, April. We
Wow.
are literally programmed from birth, maybe even before, but little girls are trained a particular way and little boys are trained a little bit different way.
Mhm.
And what happens is those patterns go into the subconscious mind to the point where they become an automatic behavior or a habit or just a what would I call that? It's like a ritual almost. It's like a thing that happens. So as our subconscious mind has this information in it, we have things that occur in our lives that are considered like triggers, right? They're core wounds. Like as a little girl, we may have been told, let your brother go first, or, you know, it's okay for little girls to cry, but big boys don't cry. So there's all these programming and patterns. As we grow up, those patterns are still in our minds without us even realizing they're in our minds. They're in the subconscious. So if something,
Because you've been programmed.
absolutely.
Been
So
programmed.
when something happens in current day, our subconscious will react, especially if it is a core wound trigger. If it triggers the core wound from when we were little, our subconscious will release chemicals like norepinephrine, cortisol, adrenaline, and our body will begin to respond before the thought. I'm talking nanoseconds, right? Smaller than seconds, but our body will begin to respond to this survival instinct
Right.
before the conscious mind can think, oh, wait a second, that is a holdover from my past. I don't have to react to that. You know, like an anxiety situation or a stressed out situation where it's like, oh, there is no saber-toothed tiger going to get us, right? But the boss might yell, get in here. And so we have this reaction like, oh my God, he doesn't like me. I need him to like me for me to be okay. And so much of that ridiculousness. And it's ridiculous in the fact that we're programmed that way. It's sad and it's unfortunate that we don't even know we're living that way. But the beautiful part is we don't have to once we begin to understand what's happening and we learn, we get educated on why it's there in the first place. Where did it come from? How did it serve me like a survival skill when I was young with the crazy people that I lived with,
Right.
right? And then I bring it with me and I'm still trying to use that same pattern with the crazy people in front of me now,
Right.
but it doesn't work so well now.
Let
So
me ask you a
what do
question.
you do?
I want you to because we're going to dial back. We didn't even make a proper introduction. We just jump right into it.
I
Anyway,
love it.
but that's what happens when we're taking care of business here on the Edge, Brains, the place where the conversation is pointed. Guests are sharp and the responses are never dull. Check this out. You use that word pretty regularly. Define crazy for me.
Doing something that you're not sure why you do it and feeling uncomfortable, but not knowing any other way to be. That feels crazy.
Mhm. Right. I think crazy is instability. It's fear.
Yeah.
It's anxiety. It's
Yes.
stress. You know,
Yes.
it's your trigger. You know,
Those are the results. Absolutely.
and as you come out of yourself. You know, you really come out of yourself.
Mhm.
And so, crazy is one of those big $25 words that people can color in the white space and figure out what it is for themselves. But they know that it's not normal and it doesn't feel good.
Right.
And it
So
doesn't feel good.
but
So
what do you do? What is the magic? What do you do when you don't know
we
what to do?
gotta stop and pause because I'm telling you, I have been doing the work. COVID
Mm,
has taught me to do the work. And I have been really stopping, taking that breath, and deciding what my choices and options are. And
absolutely.
let me tell you, Brains, it takes work.
Hmm.
But afterwards, the results, I mean, you feel like, wow, like I didn't have to go through all of that. I just finished my taxes.
Yep.
I was just as happy. I had to pay a little bit, but I was so happy that I was in a position that I could pay it, that I was in a country that allowed me to have the freedoms that I do. And I had a choice of being angry about paying or being relieved. And I was relieved.
Yes.
The smallest things. I had a woman that tried to pick a fight with me in the Target the other day.
Mm.
And I turned around and I told her, I said, you are absolutely right. And I am wrong. And forgive me. And you know what? If there's anything I can do to rectify the situation and make you feel better, you just let me know. Maybe she went from the 12th floor down to the basement. She didn't know how to do it. And you know
That's
what? I
beautiful.
wasn't wrong. I wasn't
No.
wrong. But do I
Oh,
give a shit? No. Was it
no.
worth the fight? No. Have me all on camera, have me scratching her eyes out because she don't know I am from South Central. I would have scratched her out. But what was it for? But she
Yeah.
wanted to win. And sometimes you have to suppress your feelings and allow other people to win. And I see the big word explore behind you.
Mm-hmm.
Explore a little bit more about who you are and when you came up with this great realization and the great work that you're doing in the world. Tell my brains who you are.
All right. Well, thanks. Let's see. Well, I have not had a straight path. These kids that know they want to be a astronaut or whatever when they're 4, and they just do all the things they need to do when they get there. Mine was like a big giant scribble scratch. I went all over the place. I didn't know what I wanted or who I was. I'm pretty confused, but time went on and I eventually got to a point where um, I guess you could say I reached the top of the pyramid. I was working for a 4-star general at Air Mobility Command at Scott Air Force Base in Illinois. I was a military civilian. On the outside, things looked good, right? I had the house, the car, the partner, everything, the finances. I had it, quote, all, but I didn't. On the inside, I was miserable.
Mm.
I was stressed, overwhelmed. I had lots of self doubt. I called myself an oyster, tough on the outside, soft and gooey on the inside. But there was also the pearl, right? That pearl of
Right.
wisdom.
Absolutely.
And so, out of this feeling weak and sad and angry and miserable and everything, I felt like I had this hollow soul. That's the only way I could describe it. Like my soul was hollow. So everything else was filled, but not that. And it was like, it doesn't matter about all this stuff. So what I noticed was I kept waiting for other people to lift me up, to take care of me, to protect me, to make me feel better. And I kept looking for happiness out there somewhere.
Mm.
And at work, like I said, had a fairly prestigious position. I didn't start feeling dissatisfied. I knew I was dissatisfied, but there was a moment when I went, there's got to be more to life than this. There's got to be more, but what? What is it that is more than what I have?
Mm.
So I began researching, I don't know why, vacations with purpose. I had I had seen an article or something where people can pay money to go maybe to help build a hut or dig a well or whatever. But they came back just energized and charged. And I'm like, I want that. So I began researching and I came across something called El Camino de Santiago. And the minute I saw that, and I don't know why, but I was magnetized to it. Nothing else mattered. I just followed my gut and just kept researching it. And and I don't know if you know what it is or your audience, but El Camino de Santiago is a 500-mile backpack trip that you walk. So
I don't know about it, honey. I'm looking at a $5,000 a night resort.
Okay. we all have our thing that,
exactly. I mean, but that's huge. So tell us about your trip.
Okay. So I decided I had to do this, and I did. I walked it, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it. But it was like the longer I walked, the more lessons I learned, and I realized that my life had to change, right?
Wow.
And so this is kind of like the thing that happened. It was like, because I was always feeling that there was something missing, something out there, and I had all this self-doubt, I can honestly say I hated myself. I felt ugly. I felt unlovable. I never could understand, even into my 50s, if I was a lovable person, why did my dad treat me the way he did? Why did I never feel cared for as a child? I felt alone my whole life. There's my brother and sister, and there's my mom and dad. Where do I fit in? They would even go sometimes on vacations without me. That's a whole different story, but I always felt very alone. So why does nobody want me, right? Pity and victimization and all that stuff. And at the time, it was like, I just didn't know better. It was my experience of life. I numbed out. But like you talked about, there comes a point where you have to kind of say, where am I in all of this? How do I pick myself up? How do I make these changes, these shifts? How do I do for me what I keep thinking everybody else is supposed to do for me? So I've said, what's missing? Because I literally didn't understand that I was missing. So I was like, what's missing? So I started to literally invest in myself financially. And I'm glad you talked about that earlier. Meaning I paid to go to therapy, to buy the books, to attend the workshops, the webinars, the programs. I paid for the modalities so I could learn breath work and meditation and tapping and Reiki and journaling and palmistry and blah, 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 and all these things. And they all worked some. Everything was great, all stepping stones.
Right.
But I wanted the spark, okay? I wanted the thing that lit me up, the thing that made life worth living, right? And not just to have passion, but to have compassion, to have empathy for myself and other people, to live authentically, right? Not the bullshit other people wanted me to live. Because the longer I look at that, oh my God, who is that for? Right? It's for the controllers and the dominators. It is certainly not for our own happiness and peace. So knowing that I wanted to be seen and heard and valued, I wanted to feel like I mattered. As I said, I realized what the spark was. I was missing me. But I kind of came up with a little acronym, especially due to the Camino. SPARK for me means special preparation allows real knowing.
Wow.
So it's like, if we know where we are, like a GPS, we will put an end result in there, right? Let's just give it a name, north, northeast, right? So we're sitting in our driveway and it's like, we plug in the end destination, which is, grandma's house way down in northeast. And it's like the GPS tells you where to go. Go 2 miles, take a right? But it only gives you that one direction. So you have to go 2 miles and take a right, and then it gives you the next direction. But the key is we have to take our foot off the brake, right?
Right.
You, the individual, me, the individual, we have to start rolling forward in order for life to support us so that we can have the special preparation that can allow us to have the real knowing. And, when I was preparing for the Camino, my spark was the special preparation was researching and buying things like, what do I buy? What kind of clothes do I wear? And the shoes and the special strength training. Where am I going to sleep? What flight do I take? There was all these thoughts. So it was a lot of special prep, right? The allowing was when I got there and I began walking every day. And as I walked, I learned. I just allowed whatever to unfold. It was the most amazing, amazing experience of my life.
And so when you got to that point and you said, wow, I've awakened, I've come out of the coma here. You decided to pour that into coaching and also into authoring. How did you use all of these skills and these transitional tools to help benefit others?
Well, it didn't happen immediately. I'll be honest about that. I got back to the job and I was like, oh, hell no, I got to do something. It took a little while. I did do some training then, coaching and stuff to train to become a coach.
Mhm.
But I wasn't really clear about what I wanted to coach. It was general. And so I began to realize that I needed to write about my experience, not specifically on the Camino, but the life, and then all the different things I have experienced in order to move me from where I was to where I am.
Right.
And the book is called, it started off being called, Why is my dad such an asshole to me? But I literally couldn't answer that question at that time. So I changed it to, I just want to be happy. Like, I just want to be happy. And so that's really, I just want to be happy. 6 steps to living your best life ever.
Do you have the book there with you?
I have the book with me.
We have to see it so we can purchase it.
Okay. So here it is.
Right. Yeah. Oh, look at that. I just want to be happy.
I just want to be happy.
Okay. We're into definitions here on the edge. I like my brains to be clear. Happiness to me is almost like cocaine or heroin.
Yeah.
It's something that you're always chasing. What's the next thing that's going to make me happy? Is it that new car? Is it that new man? Is it that new outfit? Is it that new hair option? What is it? People are always chasing that. Debbie, through all of the things that you've been through, even writing the book, how come people can't just be content? Why can't they just wake up in the morning and say, oh, wow, this burns me up when I say, how are you? No, I'll say, good morning. What's so good about it? The fact that your behind woke up, that's what's so good about it. You'll compliment someone on a dress. Oh, this whole thing, or, they diminish when you are trying to lift them up. A lot of people don't even realize when others are trying to support them. I'm not into a one-legged stool. I need 2, 3 legs. I need some support.
Right.
So how do people, number one, find happiness and realize when they are happy? Because sometimes they don't even know it.
Yeah. So I would say probably the absolute largest, biggest, most gigantic thing is we must give ourselves permission to be happy. If we don't give ourselves permission, who's going to? You would have gotten it by now. But for a lot of us, and I mean, there's a lot of people that had great family childhoods or whatever, but there's a lot of us that had a little trauma in our childhood. And most of the people that I have asked the question, the umbrella word, the message they got was, don't shine. Wow. Dull yourself. Quiet down. Don't be better than me.
Turn your light down. See, and that was just the opposite for me. I don't really, and I'll be 100 transparent with your brains. I don't understand that. Because my mother was like, go for the galaxy, baby. Shine like the brightest star out there. Mr. Magnificent. Don't let anybody turn your light down. So people confuse that with arrogance and cocky. You can say whatever you want. But I love me and I have self-esteem and I know how to pull back, because I don't want to overshadow or overshine someone else. And it's a hard balancing act because people go, oh, who's this person coming in? Who do they think they are? They think they're this, that. Well, yes, we do think that because it takes work. Right, Debbie?
It does. You are or grew up in or became and everyday work on, as you say, being secure in who you are.
Mhm.
And when we're not secure in who we are, that's the people that need the work. That's the people that need to reach out to find something, someone, some way to help them. I'm not talking about do it for them. They need to do it for themselves. It is an inside job.
Right.
And it is worth everything you put into it. The ROI, the return on investment is 1,000-fold, right? So the ones of us that grew up in these not so secure, a little bit insecure households was because our parents were insecure, because their parents were insecure, and it goes back however far it goes back.
We've been talking about on the show here recently is this intergenerational trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked to some African-American people that have been traumatized all the way since slavery. They've never broke that cycle.
Exactly.
And then they pour it into their children because they don't have any other coping mechanisms. How do you pump the brakes? How do you pump the brakes and just stop this once and for all?
Well, I tell you, we can do something. It's about a 2-minute activity that we can see how the brain works in real time on how to focus. So we can shift what we look at into something else.
Okay, can we do it now?
We can do it right now.
All right, let's do it, baby.
Okay, so I always do the little disclaimer, and don't be driving or operating heavy machinery, but sitting wherever you are. I'm going to put a little timer myself. I'll tell you when to start. I'll tell you when to stop. The direction is look around wherever you are and look for anything in the red color range and begin now. Okay, stop. So you have a number in your head. I'm going to talk to your whole audience, right? You have a number in your head of how many red or red-like things you saw. Now, without looking, maybe close your eyes if you can, but without looking, how many blue things did you see? Now, I know I said red things, but it's really important for us to go through this. And so I don't want this to be a trick. So I'm going to put 5 seconds on the clock. I want everybody to look around and look for the blue things that they see around them, starting now. Okay, stop. And again, what's your number? And you have your number in your mind. And again, don't look around. Maybe close your eyes if it's safe. And tell me, how many yellow things did you see? Now, don't get mad, because I know I said red, and then I said blue, and then I said yellow. But here's the thing. Let's pretend like red things are negative things, and blue things are positive things, and yellow things are opportunities. When we're focusing on red things, and we look around and we're looking for them, we see the red things. When we focus on blue, we're going to see blue, etc. Here's the thing. But when we're focused on the red things, the blue and the yellow are all around us, but we're looking for red. So there's a part of our brain called the reticular activating system, and that allows specific things into your brain. Now, we may be bombarded with over 2 million bits of data. It's only going to let in 100 bits of data, right? Huge difference between 2 million and 100, right? So what does it know to let in? It lets in what we're focusing on. If you're focused on looking for your keys, you might have shoes spread out. You may need to put something in the fridge, but you're like, where's my keys, right?
My keys are going to be right here all the time. I'm always looking for my keys.
But you're focused on that, you're going to find your keys. That's what you're looking for, right? So the brain, it's magical. If we want, I mean, there are people that go and I hear, I never get a front row parking spot. I always got to park at the back of the thing and walk forever and blah, blah, blah. And there's like frustration and aggravation. The little game to play would be from now on, start paying attention to the front row parking spot, front row parking spot, front row parking spot. Doesn't mean you're going to get it every time, and don't give up if you don't get it for the first few times, because we've programmed our brain to focus on the back. So now we're reprogramming, we're taking, that's the subconscious, and we're telling it, start paying attention, bring it into the conscious mind. I'm looking for front row parking spots. Those are opportunities, right? Those are the blue things, the positive things. They're in front of us, April, everywhere.
Oh, I know. I have a parking guy. His name's Tomahawk. And let me tell you this quick
Only
little
you.
story. So we are going to a concert, me and my girlfriend.
Uh-huh.
And there was no parking. And so, she's being a little snarky. Where's your parking guy? We're gonna be late for the concert. Where's your parking guy? Tomahawk. I said, okay. I called on him. I said, Tomahawk, I said, baby, we're gonna be late for this concert. I need a parking space right now. I pulled in. It was in the back of the casino, but you know what pulled up right behind me? Was the VIP bus to take us to the front.
Oh, okay. So perfect.
And I just laughed at her. I said, it is not always what you expect it to be, is how it's going to show up.
Very beautiful. Yes.
And you have to be open to possibilities. And just because this is the way that you frame it, that may not be the way it's going to show up.
Right.
So you have to be able to edit and filter and adjust.
Mm-hmm.
And when she got on that bus, I gave her hell from the back of that parking lot all the way to the front door. And we got in enough time. So again, it's about processing. And I understand. And the blue thing that I focused on is that beautiful, bright blue wall behind you.
Okay.
That is, really, purplish blue.
Yeah.
It's a window of opportunity. And the word explore.
Yes.
Is a world of opportunity.
Absolutely. And the other part of that is to pay attention, because good things will happen to us and we just go like, oh yeah, and dismiss it. We need to pay attention and acknowledge it. Like, that good thing did happen to me and I'm looking for the next good thing to happen to me. Because as we keep speaking that, it's like having a jar of marbles that are, say, all red. And one blue thing happens and you take out a red one and you put in a blue one, right? It's still a sea of red, but now it's got just a little speck of blue. And the next time a blue thing happens, a positive thing or a yellow thing, take out another red one and put that blue one in there. And it's going to switch around. It does take time, but that's okay. What else do you have? You want to stay with the red, bucket of red your whole life? Or do you want to, step by step, as we move forward, begin to switch that over so that now you're living a more consciously designed life, what you want more of? And that's the key. What do you want more of? I mean, April, you've been hugely successful in your life, but it wasn't like you woke up one day. But it's not like you woke up one day and went, when I'm this age, I'm going to have done this and this and this. Like, it's very specific. It's move forward and trust and move forward and get up one more time than you fell down. Right?
And also, when I have to pump my brakes, I appreciate the fact that I've had to slow down.
Yeah.
It gives me an opportunity to adjust. I see people that create these vision boards. Mm-hmm. And there's all this wonderful thing, and I want this, and I want that, and I want that, but they never put obstacles there. They never give themselves time to decompose. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't understand pain, you're never going to enjoy pleasure.
Very true.
And people keep pushing and keep pushing. Like I said, keep pushing that happiness button. Sometimes, brains, you just got to pause and be cool, right, and neutral. And just say, hey, this is where I am and I've leveled out. I am able to say, hey, maybe I need to step back, or maybe I need to go full throttle. And you've been able to do that with the people that you are coaching. Tell us a little bit about your coaching program, Debbie.
So the program is called Inner Mastery Program. And what we do is we look at, like I said, things that have happened and then figure out, how do we move through that? You talk about the full throttle or pulling back. We believe that people need information. Those are skills and tools that you have that are available to you. You have a frame of reference from which to pull. There are people that have none of that. Well, where do they get it, right? So we help them understand it when these things happen. Like, I had a situation where I was pretty disrespected when I was young, right? And so that has been carried with me. So if somebody does something, I want to react immediately. I don't so much anymore because I know what's happening. But I used to bow up to people. I'd be pulling my earrings out for a fight in a second, many, many moons ago. But I walked out the door, I don't want to say the other day, it was like 3 years ago.
Well,
And my
and I like the fact that you pulled out your earrings. So that lets me know, yeah, that lets me know you got a G card. That means a ghetto card because you ready to scrap. When you pull them earrings out, girl, put some Vaseline on your face and it's on.
okay, good. I have my own G card. I love it. I've never heard that. so so what happened was I walked outside the back door and the neighbor who they had been making their backyard beautiful with a pool and cabana-like style. They had put up a wooden fence, but all of a sudden, all these wires from the lights they had put to hang on the fence were just flapped over and hanging on my side. I internally lost it. My brain was like, who the hell does he think he is? I can't believe that he's done it. It's so disrespectful. And I just was on and on at a mile a minute. For 2 days, I was like this. And then I was like, you need to grab a skill and apply it, right? So we have a skill we call stop, drop, and roll. Stop, drop, and roll. I don't know that everybody had this happen, but when I was young, the firemen would come in and they said,
Oh, yeah.
oh, okay, if you catch on fire, stop, drop to the ground, and roll till the fire goes out, right? Well, my thought was, well, what happens when the fire's in your brain? What do you do then, right? So stop, drop, and roll for us is you have an intense emotion, right? Stop for a second and go, I'm having that intense emotion, right? Recognize it, become consciously aware of it. The drop is drop back and pause for a moment. What is that? For me, it was disrespect. It could be anger or something else, but that's what it was for me. And think, okay, pause. What is that? And where did I feel that before? Oh, childhood, right? And then I get to remember that the person in front of me didn't do to me back then what I'm experiencing right now. I'm just having like a holdover emotion. It's a core wound trigger. It happens a lot to people that have not processed their stuff. So the role then is to roll into a new thought, a new concept, a new story, a new paradigm, a new something. So I thought, okay, what could be a new something? Okay, so they're creating all this beautiful space in their backyard, and that's taken them over a year. So nothing they did was overnight, right? Nothing they did was immediate. So maybe he's not finished with that project. Amazingly, right? Synchronistically, the universe supporting me shows him up a few minutes later. The next time I walked outside, he popped outside a few minutes later and I said, oh, hey, y'all have been doing so much work and it's beautiful, but I noticed all this stuff. And he was like, oh yeah, I have to paint the fence, stain it before I can tack down those, and I'll bring them on my side when I do. And I was like, okay, cool.
Right.
I know that if I would have reacted, and that's the difference, it would have reacted to it, I would have chewed him out and I would be a terrible, terrible neighbor, right? But I was able to use stop, drop, and roll, understand what was actually happening for me, not take it out on him. It had nothing to do with him, and was able to approach him in a kind way to just ask a question. And it's like those kinds of things happen, I don't want to say regularly. I kind of fly through them now.
I mean, I tell you about the woman in Target.
Absolutely.
I have a choice, and you have a choice. But brains, you have to slow down and give yourself time to breathe. You've got to take time to process this. It's like my husband gave me a cookie the other day, and he says, I want you to taste this and see what it tastes like. The first thing I did was put it up to my nose and sniff it. And then I put it in my mouth, and I allowed it to lay on my palate. And I swished it around, and I inhaled the aroma of it. That was having the experience. Oddly enough, my daughter comes in the room. He goes, I want you to try this cookie. What did she do? The exact same thing. She sniffed the cookie. He goes, your mother just sniffed the cookie. I said, that's my child.
Oh, wow.
Put it in. She let it swirl on her palate. You have to go through the process, brains. We are so used to shortcuts. Just try to get me from point A to point Z, and you don't cover anything else in the alphabet in between. And you want to win, and you want that instant gratification, and you want. But what are you willing to sacrifice is what I want to know. When are you ready to pause and say, hey, I take responsibility for my actions? As Debbie said, those things that occurred to her in her childhood was victimization. This is what someone put on her. She didn't deserve that. But it comes to a point in your life when you have to accept that, know that this is a part of your story, who you are. Now, what are you going to do with that? Are you going to use that as a point of reference, or are you going to use that as a bullet in the gun?
Absolutely. Things that happen to us aren't our faults, but what we're doing today in current day is our responsibility,
That's right.
right? And the good news is there is information out there, right? What I love about the story about you with your daughter had you to model after, right?
It was scary. It was scary. He said, your mother just did the same thing. Usually you just take the cookie and put it in your mouth. But we wanted to go through the experience.
Yes, and I'm sure she's watched you and saw your great joy and fulfillment in just delighting in the
Well, it was
moment.
funny because when she was 7 years old, we were sitting in the car and she turned to me and she looked at me and she says, Mommy, I watch every single thing you do.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. I said, well, I hope that I'm a good example. I want to be a good example.
Mhm.
And she's 33 and I have never forgotten that. And, sometimes I've gone from a flicker to a flame and she'll bring that to my attention. And she goes, remember, I told you, I watch every single thing you do.
Wow.
So we are an example, not only to our children, but to our coworkers, to our friends, to our employees, to the people that we coach and we mentor. We are an example. And as Debbie said, don't let anybody turn down your light.
Mhm.
You must be able to shine in the darkest places, because you know what? That is really what is going to carry you through. Debbie, you are amazing and I love you so much. I thank you so much for being here with me and my brains on the edge. Please tell my brains how to get in contact with you. I would love for them to explore and do some deep dive with you because you are a wealth of information and you've been there. You've been on that journey. You've walked it, 500 miles of it.
Literally and figuratively. And thank you so much for being here. I have loved every minute. I just want to use one phrase: love in action. That is how I see you, April. You
Oh,
are love in action.
thank you.
And we all would do well to aspire to move more towards that in our lives. So my name is Debbie Pearson. You can find me at debbiepearson.com or info@debbiepearson.com. And I would love to hear from your people, all the brains out there. If anybody wants to discuss brains, I am all about it. So thank you again so much for having me here. I've really enjoyed this. Here's mine.
I enjoy you absolutely. And brains again, you know, go to El Camino.
It's called El Camino de Santiago, and it's a 500-mile long walking path across Spain.
Oh my
It's
God.
phenomenal.
Okay, well, brains, you got to get your vaccination first.
Yeah, next year when you can fly there or something.
And you know what? Probably because it's such a spiritual journey, there's probably no COVID there.
COVID's everywhere.
Right.
But they'll open up as is appropriate, and I know that it's going to happen. Everybody that does it, almost everybody, wants to go back and do it again. It is.
You go back and do it again?
I've been back. I haven't walked the whole thing. I plan on walking it again. I actually was going to walk this year.
Well, I just want to be able to get to a nice resort and get a massage.
Absolutely. Hey, look, that's your Camino, baby. You do it.
It is, but there's a lot of spiritual journeys that I want to go on. I actually want to go to a retreat that is completely in silence.
Yes.
No televisions, there's no computers, you don't even talk.
You are investing in you.
Exactly.
However it is that you are literally investing in you, your well-being, we say happiness, but I want to say the word fulfillment, because when we go buy the things, the car, the shirt, the top, the blouse, the whatever it is that we have a momentary drop of, dopamine. Woohoo, look what
right.
But then it's gone. 3 seconds, 30 minutes, whatever. It's gone. What's the next thing? But when you do the things that fill your soul, right? I talked about the hollow soul. When you do the things that fill your soul, that's when you have the happiness, the satiation that my life is worth living.
Absolutely. And you are worth living because you keep giving.
Yeah.
Sharing brains. I need you to go and subscribe to On the Edge with April Mahoney. I always got it upside down or backwards or something. I be doing too much. But I want you to do something. I want you to go in. I want you to subscribe. I want you to go and follow Debbie. I want you to check me out on LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram. Be sure that you share this valuable information. It costs you nothing but a point and a click to go in and share. Subscribe to the programs and come on, be a guest on the edge. Tell your amazing story. Walk your walk. Let us see what's in your path. Thank you so much, Debbie. I love you and adore you. Come on back, girl.
Thank you so much, April. I enjoyed it. Have a great day.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, brains.